Coming up on this edition of VCU In-Depth, documentaries from students in VCU's Robertson School of Media and Culture.
We'll start with a frightening look on how heroin abuse has become a major problem throughout all sectors of society.
And then we'll move on to a positive story of a Richmond pastor who overcame a life-threatening disease to inspire others.
VCU In-Depth begins right now. Hello and welcome to this edition of VCU In-Depth. I'm Jessica Biza.
And I'm Jacqueline Causey. Thanks for joining us as we feature documentaries from undergraduate students in VCU's Robertson School of Media and Culture. Last year, heroin and opium use killed more people in Virginia than car crashes for the first time, according to state records.
Fatal heroin and prescription drug overdoses climbed 57% in the last 5 years, leading Virginia Attorney General Mark Herron to declare heroin a statewide epidemic.
Much of the public attention has been focused on why the drug is resurging in popularity and what to do in the event of an overdose.
But as we see in this documentary entitled Stuck, the stigma associated with the drug abuse can be eliminated, and for many, recovery is possible.
Sir, can you hear us? Can you wake up for me? You open your eyes, look at me. Gotta take you to the hospital, okay? Gotta get you some help. Right?
They said it'll make you feel good.
What did you do?
It's like a warm blanket of like euphoric bliss.
Everything is numb. You feel almost nothing, anytime, any given time at all. You know, you're not really happy, sad, you're not even really high, you just are.
I could not get my mind wrapped around the thought that Catherine was a heroin addict. Not my daughter. Not my daughter, no way. So if my daughter can be a heroin addict, anybody can. It's not about not having love and support. It's about how they feel inside of themselves that makes them start to use in the first place. Yeah.
A lot of people need to understand that, you know, just because I'm a heroin addict or other people use heroin doesn't make them bad people. Just because I'm a convicted felon doesn't mean I'm a bad person. I made bad decisions, definitely. I gave away my freedom for a high.
We would find spoons in her bedroom, like in her dresser drawers, spoons, lighters, foil.
Found more spoons. I've lost a lot of spoons in the past 3 years.
Yeah. Just I changed so much and I became someone I really hated. Like I couldn't make eye contact with myself in the mirror. Like I could barely even look at myself. I hated myself. I thought I was the biggest piece of in the world. I really did.
I think a lot of people assume that we think a drug addict or somebody who's overdosing on drugs or somebody who's a long-time user of drugs is just this thing that we deal with. But in reality, one of the things that we see is it's a human being, it's a person. It's a person who's gone through some things, and there are reasons they've led to this lifestyle, and most of the time they are not great. And what we're able to do is we're able to reach out to that person, reach out to that human being, and sometimes really make a difference by identifying that it's a person. It's somebody who just needs some help.
The stigma associated with addiction is the big lie. You know, it's a huge lie. It's a ridiculous stigma. This is addiction. This is recovery, what you're looking at. This should be the face on the 5 o'clock. I mean, not what you're seeing. You know, less than 1% of people with this illness make up 99% of the media, you know, of the stigma. And it's just wrong, it's fraud, and we want to change that.
This disease does not discriminate, doesn't care what race, sex, gender, whatever, you know. It'll affect the person, homeless guy under the bridge, to a young professional like myself.
We're here to share our stories so the public can know about not just, you know, that we're all quote unquote junkies or drug addicts, that we, you know, live a life of recovery. People are dying left and right, and, you know, we're kind of sick of, you know, going to funerals.
I got a call from Catherine that she was in the Norfolk Police Precinct. And so I went there to pick her up. And I said, what happened? She was at a McDonald's in Norfolk, in a very bad section, with two male friends. And they shot up in the car, all three of them. One of them shot up, and he turned blue. I mean, his lips turned blue, and the brother went into the McDonald's to call 911, or either he called it from his cell phone, I don't know, but the police were called. And so, since it was a heroin overdose, of course, Catherine was charged. She was charged with possession.
That is after people typically use a syringe, they just shoot whatever is left inside the needle, which is typically just blood, into the ceiling.
When I first started taking opiates, it was painkillers, and it was just so fun. I felt really happy. Everything was great. I felt like even if someone told me some information like, you know, you lost a family member or something, that I'd still be smiling. I don't really remember anything that happened, but what I'm told happened was apparently I shoved Maddie down the stairs, my sister, and I guess my mom had just gotten back from the store, and when she heard about it, she flung some soda like just straight into the driveway, and next thing I knew, two police officers showed up.
My name is Stas Nowitzki. I started using heroin when I was 19 years old. So I overdosed the day before my 25th birthday. So I spent my 25th birthday in a coma.
Well, you know, we feel very strong about this. We really do. You know, it's kind of like the same thing on DUIs. You know, we're tired of knocking on doors and telling mom your kid's not coming home. Get the help before law enforcement gets involved. Because once it goes into our bailiwick, once it goes into law enforcement, it takes on somewhat of a different take as opposed to if you can get them the help ahead of time.
There are people who legitimately care. There are police officers who are willing to stop and say, hey, let's not take you to jail, let's get you someplace where we can get you better. Even if you have to go to jail, work with the Commonwealth attorney or work with the judge to get you into a situation where you make yourself better. And the key part of that is you have to want it.
I don't think that putting addicts in jail is effective at all. I don't know anyone that stay clean just from being in jail. If you take someone that doesn't want to be clean, put them in jail for 2 years, it's just pressing pause on time. They get out and get high immediately. Jail doesn't make people want to get clean.
But so I gotten out of jail, and my dad picked me up, and I told him, like, hey, you know, like, I'm gonna change and all this, but in my mind, I still had that mental obsession, like, I need to go get high one more time. And so I got high one more time, and I overdosed. Part of the reason what I do today is because I feel I was given an opportunity to help people and not waste my life. Like, I've done enough to waste my life, and now I want to give back, and in hopes that I can save other people from wasting the key years of their life.
We have what we call frequent flyer opiate addicts. It costs $5,200 to just arrest an opiate addict. We can detox that same addict for $625.
So let's get help for them so that they can have it. be normal people as far as contributing to society and have hope for the future. You know, maybe one day they can get married and have children and, you know, be a member of the PTA and live in suburbia, you know, and just have a normal life.
Yes, I shot dope for a long time. I did heroin for years. But daggone, I mean, I'm just a totally different person today because of recovery. And I pay taxes, I vote, you know, I do all this stuff. My credit's fixed, you know, and I'm a mommy and I'm on the PTA, all this stuff, you know, that we get back because of recovery and work in a recovery program.
It's imperative for addicts to help other addicts if they want to stay clean long term. They only keep what they have by giving it away.
I think we're all bringing common sense to you right now. We are the evidence. We're all the recovery.
My final question to you is, where do you wish to go from here?
I'm not 100% sure about that yet, but I know not back.
I'm Bill Oglesby, an assistant professor in VCU's Robertson School of Media and Culture and the instructor for the documentary class. Joining me tonight are Yura Lee, Megan LaFont, and Russell Pompa, who produced the documentary they call Stuck, which was pretty powerful, and it was a little more than a little scary too. Yura, let me start with you. What made you decide to tackle the subject of heroin for the documentary?
You know, honestly, it wasn't my idea, but it was Megan that brought it up right next to me, and I felt I felt that at first it was a little bit too deep to get into. And I was thinking, how can we cover heroin within 10 minutes? But I thought, you know, we can do this, and it's a very powerful topic, so we should cover it, especially in Virginia.
Mm-hmm. Well, like you were saying, Megan, it's sort of a big topic, heroin and heroin abuse. What made you to decide to do stigma and recovery as the angles for this particular documentary?
Well, there's a lot of rhetoric right now in Virginia about it being such an epidemic, and instead of focusing on facts and figures, I really wanted to take a look at the people it was actually affecting and show that while, yeah, it's an awful thing being addicted, it's also really important to talk about the opportunity for recovery and how the disease is affecting families and the people that do use heroin.
Mm-hmm. Russell, now I understand that you actually knew one of the subjects in the documentary.
Yes.
What was it like with such a heavy subject to actually know the person that you were interviewing?
I mean, there's no other way to put it. It was an incredibly powerful experience. For me, honestly, more so than him. He had pretty much long since accepted what had happened in the past and had really, for the most part, gotten over it. But for me, it was still, honestly, a very surreal thing, because throughout most of the time that it was happening, I was had like first gone away to college. So I was like back home, and I would see him, and he would be getting progressively worse, and I'd go back, be gone for a bit. So it was just a lot to like bring back all those memories, but honestly it kind of felt like very relieving. I was able to kind of just like let it go and kind of like have that conclusion that it's finally over, and it was nice.
I'll bet that was interesting. Thanks very much, guys. Good job.
Thanks, Dr. Oglesby. Now we take a look at the unique story of a young man who's not only impacted Richmond within church walls, but has extended his reach to the surrounding community as well.
Pastor Vernon Gordon is the founder of the Life Church, which is now in its 5th month of service at the Benford Middle School on Floyd Avenue.
Gordon's vision for the Life Church is to create a diverse and comfortable space where people from all walks of life are welcome.
As he puts it, it takes the people of the church to live the scripture instead of just reciting it. This documentary is called God's Work.
Let the sound of my voice reach the heavens. May the beat of my heart make you dance. Let the fragrance of my love be appealing. May the whispers of my heart do the same. Let the sound of my voice reach the heavens. May the beat of my heart make you dance. Let the fragrance of my love be appealing. May the whispers of my heart do the same. And when the lights leave the stage and the people leave this place, I just wanna be in your presence. When the lights leave the stage and the people leave this place, I just wanna be in your presence.
There's a man by the name of Vernon Gordon. Yes, he's a fighter, but not in the way you might be thinking. He stands face to face against so many odds, yet he still manages to come out on top. Growing up, he dealt with cancer. He was told that he would die, yet his faith kept him alive. He was then told that the effects of his cancer would prevent him from ever having children, yet we see him today with his daughter Madison and his high school sweetheart, wife of 4 years, Ashley, who is pregnant with their second child.
Vernon met Ashley in 10th grade. Well, he was new to our school, and Ashley saw him around, and she came to me and she said, "There's a new boy in school." And I said, "I'm excited," because I'm thinking, fair game. And so when we walk past the classroom, she sees him and she's like, "There he is." And I'm like, "Oh, Vernon, I've known Vernon since I was 3 years old." So they met then outside of me, and they started dating.
Come with us as we take a trip back to their hometown to see just what has made Vernon the man he is today.
So we have a family, all of our family is in Hampton Roads, Virginia, better known as 757. So we are headed down today, this morning, got a good workout in, and had a chance to grab some McDonald's with the family, and so now we are headed down to our hometown for our baby shower for our second child. So 2 in diapers, so it's going to be a great time, and just excited to see a lot of laughs and a lot of food, hopefully. So
Once we arrived in the 757, Ashley and Madison relaxed at Ashley's parents' house until it was time for the baby shower. In the meantime, we had a special place to visit.
Okay, you going down to the church?
yeah, we're going straight to the church.
Okay.
All righty.
All right. I'm going to have her stop by that lecture. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I used to turn to get to my church right here. And that food mart right there used to get us in the most trouble. Because our church was right there. And we would sneak out of church and walk to the food mart during church and try to get back without getting caught. And we always got caught. I don't know how we always got caught. Like they had GPS tracker back there and they didn't. Crazy. Welcome home. Hey there. I'm gonna go show him where it really counted at. Here it is right here. So, for those who know, I grew up in the choir, and so we used to have lock-ins, and we use all this space. And I remember moving in this church. It was like amazing because the first church we were in, I remember it was a lot smaller. It was on, but we moved in this. We were so excited, and so back here, I think they still back here. They back here. Let me see. So this was the choir room back in the day. Oh man, they moved everything on me. See, that's what happens when you don't come home. All right, let me see if I can find them. Hold on. You know, came in and watch it like this. Hey, that's up. It's a choir room, boy. Yeah. Hey, right here, you know what I'm saying? All day. I used to rock this joint, saying, show the people what it was. You see what I'm saying?
After 4 years of college ministry, Vernon Gordon recently started his own church entitled The Life Church, and it is currently in the 5th month of service. From time to time, he shares his testimony.
For those who don't know, I was a former cancer patient. I had 2 tumors, 12 surgeries, 3 years of chemotherapy. They told me I would die 3 times. And one of the amazing
when he was diagnosed with cancer, he was just positive. I kept him a year so his mom and dad wouldn't have to quit their jobs, and because he had to take that chemo, about 3 times a week he would take chemo. But he was just such an amazing little boy. And of course, now I got to say this, all of my grandchildren were amazing. So, and then we got a great-grandchild that is extra amazing. So no, but he was an amazing little boy.
Speaking of amazing little boys, the Vernon Gordon family has finally reached their destination, the baby shower for their son coming soon. They were greeted by family and started off with a celebrity name game.
Really popular, yes. Super popular.
Pretty much.
Barack Obama. All right.
Then they ate delicious food and did some dancing.
Hey.
It was great to hear all the nice things that were said.
I would describe him as determined. Since I've known him, he hasn't stopped. Everything that has, presented itself as adversity, he's been able to overcome.
And with the overcoming of adversity, we set our eyes on the name revealing of the Gordon's second child.
Prayerful about what a good name would be, and there's a name that we selected. Jackson will be the name of the baby boy, Jackson. And Jackson means God has shown great favor or graciousness.
As God has shown great favor and graciousness to Vernon and his family, Vernon in return does his best to touch all lives he comes in contact with.
Sure, absolutely. So Vernon came and checked out our church. We had a young adults group at my old church, and he came and I sat next to him and started talking to him. Like out of nowhere, he's just like, you know what? Why don't you come be my college pastor? And like this is like the first time we sat down. I was like, well, let me think about it. And so I took a few months and got to know him really well. And this has been such a cool opportunity for me. Haven't had a chance to be inside of another culture and be a part of a church that is multicultural, and being able to see how God has lined up all of our paths to kind of get at this church. And I foresee that this church is going to be a big deal in the area.
Man, I can honestly just say, man, if you haven't been there, check it out. Because Vernon is doing something great in the community. I would honestly say he's one of the most influential people in Richmond at this point. Everywhere you go, somebody knows Vernon. I mean, he's touching hearts, lives, people all over the place, and it's not even just through the church. He talks about it so many times. It's not just about quoting the scripture, it's about living the scripture.
To gather for a righteous and a just cause. We pray now that we never forget our call to justice, that it is more important than Sunday service, that it's more important than just a moment, but it is a movement that is rooted in our love and our desire for righteousness on our planet. We ask now that you empower us to stay consistent and encouraged through this movement, and that we never settle for what will look like justice, but that we truly push for justice for all. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
It's where I wanna be. I gotta be near you, closer to your love. Where I wanna be. It's where I wanna be. I gotta be next to you, yeah. I gotta be closer to you. In your presence there's fullness of joy. In your presence It's where I wanna be. It's where I wanna be. It's where I wanna be.
And for the God's Work documentary, we had just one student producer, Travis Ellison. Welcome and good job.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Now, tell me exactly why you chose this particular subject for your documentary.
Well, I met Vernon Gordon when I transferred to VCU in 2013, and he's just a passionate guy. He has a great story, and I felt like I needed to tell it.
Now, anybody who watches this often knows we never have just one producer, so why did you want to do this single-handedly? Just a glutton for punishment?
To be honest, once I heard about the capstone and documentary, I was really passionate about doing one, and it just worked out that way. Other people in the groups, they had great ideas for their stories, and I was really passionate about mine, so I wanted to stick with it and just challenge myself.
Well, share with us some of the things you've learned through the process of producing this documentary.
One thing I learned is that you have to let the documentary come to you. You can have an idea for the story, but you really have to let it just work itself out.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and of course graduation's coming up, and there's life after that, so we've heard. Is documentary have any place in that for you?
Definitely. I want to do like short films, possibly tour with a musician, music artist, or anybody in sports, and continue doing film and photography. So we'll see. I'm excited.
And you like what we call long form type journalism, which is documentary?
Right, long form, or even if it's like 2 or 3 minute films as well. But anything with the camera I'm pretty interested in, so I look forward to doing something with that.
Did it ever make you self-conscious doing this all by yourself?
I thought about it, but I just felt like I could get it done. And I had help, as everybody was really good to work with. So.
Yeah. Well, you did, and you did a good job, so thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
And Travis, of course, is the producer behind God's Work.
Thanks again, Dr. Oglesby and all of the documentary students. That about does it for this edition of VCU In-Depth, and thank you for joining us. I'm Jacqueline Causey.
And I'm Jessica Biza. From all of us at VCU In-Depth, have a good night.